For many high-achieving corporate women, career decisions are not only professional, they are spiritual. You pray about your work. You ask for guidance. You reflect on purpose. You want your work to mean something beyond achievement. And yet, when seasons of misalignment appear, the spiritual dimension of career decisions can become confusing. You may begin asking questions like, is God telling me to leave this role? Am I supposed to move in a different direction? Is this discomfort a sign that I am out of alignment with my purpose? These questions are sincere, but they can also become emotionally complicated because when professional tension and spiritual discernment intersect, the temptation is to move quickly, to interpret discomfort as divine instruction, to assume that the feeling of misalignment automatically means immediate change. But spiritual discernment requires wisdom, not urgency. Let's anchor something important first. High-achieving corporate women do not burn out because they are weak. They burn out because they are misaligned. But misalignment does not automatically mean that you must leave your environment. Sometimes the misalignment is an invitation to grow. Sometimes it is an invitation to recalibrate. And sometimes, yes, it is an invitation to transition. But discernment requires understanding the difference because spiritual conviction and emotional frustration can sometimes feel similar. One invites thoughtful movement. The other pushes reactive decisions. Learning to distinguish between those two is incredibly important. Let's talk about why. When a woman of faith begins feeling tension in her professional life, she often turns immediately to prayer, which is good, but prayer without reflection can sometimes produce confusion. Not because God is unclear, but because our emotional state can distort how we interpret the situation. Fatigue can feel like spiritual prompting. Frustration can feel like divine instruction. Impatience can feel like urgency. This is why discernment requires both spiritual sensitivity and practical wisdom. It requires asking deeper questions before making major decisions. Let's explore 3 principles that help bring clarity when faith and career decisions intersect. The first principle is this: discomfort is not always direction. This is one of the most important lessons in both leadership and spiritual maturity. Not every uncomfortable season is a signal to leave. Sometimes discomfort is part of growth. Sometimes discomfort is refining your leadership. Sometimes discomfort is revealing areas where resilience is still developing. Even in scripture, seasons of tension were not always signals to move immediately. Joseph remained in difficult environments before his leadership season emerged. Esther remained within a complex political structure before stepping into her calling. Growth often happens inside tension. So when discomfort appears, the first question should not be, where should I go next? The first question should be, what is this season teaching me? That question slows down impulsivity and invites reflection. The second principle is this: alignment with purpose often develops gradually. Many people imagine purpose as a dramatic moment of clarity, a sudden revelation, a single decision that changes everything. But for most professionals, purpose unfolds progressively through experience, through leadership of responsibilities, through seasons of refinement, through opportunities that reveal new capacities. Purpose is rarely discovered through sudden escape. It is usually revealed through thoughtful progression. And that progression requires patience. This is why identity clarity is so important. Because when you understand who you are becoming, you can recognize opportunities that align with that direction. Without that clarity, purpose becomes abstract and decisions become reactive. The third principle is this: wise transitions protect what God has already built in your life. High achieving women often feel tension between faith and professional ambition. They wonder if wanting career stability means they lack spiritual trust. But thoughtful stewardship is not lack of faith, it is wisdom. God often builds through structure, through relationships, through credibility, through influence that develops over time. When transitions happen impulsively, those structures can be unnecessarily disrupted. But when transitions happen strategically, they preserve what has already been built. That is why discernment should lead to thoughtful movement and not emotional escape. Because wisdom protects what purpose has already created. Now, let's talk about something many women quietly experience. Sometimes the tension you feel in your career is not about leaving your profession. It is about refining how you lead within it. Your leadership identity may be evolving. Your values may be becoming clearer. Your sense of purpose may be deepening. And those internal shifts naturally change how you experience your environment. What once felt normal may now feel misaligned. Not because the environment changed, but because you did. And that is not a problem. That is maturity. The key is interpreting that evolution carefully, because sometimes evolution leads to transition, but sometimes it leads to recalibration. Recalibrating how you lead, how you set boundaries, how you evaluate opportunities, how you define success. Discernment helps you determine which path is appropriate. And discernment takes time. It requires prayer, reflection, wise counsel, and honest self-examination. This is why my work always begins with identity, not resumes, not job searches, identity. Because identity clarity helps professionals interpret both emotional signals and spiritual impressions with greater wisdom. Through the RTS method, realign, transition, sustain, we approach career alignment in 3 phases. The first phase is realign. This phase focuses on identity clarity, understanding who you are becoming, recognizing where misalignment exists, separating emotional frustration from genuine directional shifts. Once clarity emerges, the second phase becomes possible. Transition. This phase designs thoughtful, strategic movement. Movement that protects your income, your credibility, and your professional narrative. Because wise transitions strengthen the future rather than destabilize the present. And finally comes sustain. This phase ensures that future success remains aligned with your identity, your values, and your purpose, so that leadership becomes an expression of who you truly are, not a performance you must maintain. Because success that costs your identity is not sustainable success. Let's bring this together. If you are a woman of faith navigating professional uncertainty right now, slow down, pray, reflect, seek clarity before movement. Ask yourself, what is this season teaching me? How is my identity evolving? What alignment is God developing within me before the next opportunity appears? Those questions create discernment, and discernment produces peace. Not because every answer appears immediately, but because clarity begins replacing emotional urgency. The goal is not simply to move. The goal is to move wisely. Because when faith, identity, and professional direction align, leadership becomes more than achievement. It becomes stewardship. And stewardship is what sustains meaningful success. In the next video, we are going to bring this realignment conversation together. We will talk about what it truly means to realign your career without starting over. Because many high-achieving women assume alignment requires abandoning everything they have built. But often, alignment simply requires recalibrating direction. And that shift changes everything. I'll see you on the next one.